Without further ado, we'd like to kick off this evening. Again, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight, and I'd love to introduce you to Steve Gibson, who, gosh, he's been with us from the very beginning, and I can't say enough good things about Steve, but I want to get to the program tonight. So just know he'll introduce himself and tell you how he became involved in Mimosa and how you can join us and be a part of this awesome group. So Steve, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that kind introduction. First off, I just want to say cheers to everyone. Welcome. This is going to be such a fun event. I had no power last Thursday and no internet, so I'm really glad we got to move it to tonight. So here we are on a chilly Atlanta autumn evening, just a couple of days after Halloween, and I'm working hard to channel my inner mystery murder lover and really excited about this presentation that we're going to have tonight. But first I wanted to tell you just a little bit about the Friends of Mimosa and about Mimosa Hall, which is the beautiful property that sits on 9 acres right in historic Roswell. It has so much really cool history that you can read a lot about, of that on our website to learn more about us and about the property. But it's just a really cool property, and we're going to be talking about that and about this book this evening. So the Friends of Mimosa, we don't own the property. We're a 501c3 nonprofit it's an organized group of very diverse citizens from around the Roswell area that came together that want to support the preservation and the ongoing use of Mimosa Hall for the benefit of the citizens of Roswell. So we work to help guide Roswell, the city, in ways to use the property. And one of those ways is going to be a lecture series. So much like what we're doing here virtually, since we're in the middle of a pandemic, we hope to bring really cool, informative, and educational type events to Mimosa Hall. It's just such a perfect setting for it, with one large room that can accommodate easily about 100 people. In addition to that, we've got lots of other programming types of activities that we're cooking up and that we're getting ready for. And one of those you may have heard a little bit about. It's a solar roof. And the Friends of Mimosa together have proposed and have fundraised, and we're about ready to do the installation of a solar roof on Mimosa Hall, which will make Mimosa Hall the nation's oldest net zero property when it's in full effect. And we're so excited about that, about the marrying of the future of Mimosa Hall with the past and the beautiful historic setting that it's in. So lots of cool programming like that. We can't do it alone. We need volunteers. We need help. We need engagement. And financially, we need your money. So I want to just mention that we have a website. If you feel moved to help support these programs, we would invite you to go to friendsofmimosa.org, and you can find a donation page. And even more importantly, you can find a way to engage through volunteering, or even perhaps becoming part of our group through membership. So please take the time to do that after this event. And we definitely hope to see you becoming more and more a part of what we're doing with Roswell, with Mimosa Hall, and the cool property that we're helping to support. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Dr. Sarah Harwood. Dr. Harwood is an integral part of the Friends of Mimosa. She's been a board member since the very beginning, when the group first started, and she's been very instrumental in really uncovering a lot of the unique history of the property. So it's certainly going to be a great privilege to have Dr. Harwood guide us through Who Killed Aunt Maggie. So with that, Dr. Harwood, take us away.
Everybody, I'm Dr. Harwood. I'm an English professor at Clayton State University. So I'll be talking about the book and the movie, and then sharing some readings from the book and some clips from the movie. All right, so the movie, you can see a screenshot right here. It's from 1940, and of course it's called Who Killed Aunt Maggie. And let me know if you can't see my screen at any point, but here you can see picture from the movie premiere. So this movie premiere was one of the first movie premieres in Atlanta, and yes, it was held right downtown where the Rialto Theater was. I think it's still the Rialto now. It's part of Georgia State University. It's not quite the same building, but that Building has been repurposed many times over the years. Before this, there was Gone with the Wind, in 1939, but otherwise this was one of the first movie premieres to happen in downtown Atlanta. And as you can see, it was a really big deal at the time. So what I want to do next is show you just the opening clips as sort of a teaser from the movie. Bear with me as I get this open. Okay. Those are the opening clips giving you a taste of what the movie is like. We'll watch a little bit more in a minute. But first I wanted to talk about how I actually learned about this book. So it's written by Medora Field Perkerson, and she worked with Margaret Mitchell. I'll talk more about that in a second. But she actually also wrote much more famous book to us anyway, in terms of being board members of Friends of Mimosa, people who are interested in historic architecture. I realized I had the volume up for the movie clip, so now it's not going to make you deaf. So she wrote this book, White Columns of Georgia, and I went to, I think it was UGA. I've gone to a variety of different archives, and I was researching. Perkerson wanted to get a little bit more information about the White Columns of Georgia, this book that she wrote about historic architecture in Georgia. Mimosa Hall is one of the properties. And so as I was going through some of her personal papers, some speeches that she's given, came across, she wrote 2 mystery novels in the 1930s. White Columns of Georgia, I think, is 1952, somewhere around there. So a little bit later. But yeah, she wrote these mystery novels. And as I was going through, reading these speeches that she was going around after the book came out, turns out Who Killed Aunt Maggie was a bestseller, huge national bestseller, went through many, many editions, really popular book. More interesting for me, though, was finding out, it's set in Roswell. And then finding out when she was giving a talk, when the book came out, she actually based it on Mimosa Hall. She changed the name to respect the privacy of the owner at the time. So she doesn't call it Mimosa Hall, but she calls it Wisteria Hall. So Mimosa, Wisteria, you see. And she, of course, did have some artistic license as well. So she changed some of the landscape a little bit, changed the house a teeny little bit, but for the most part, it's our Mimosa Hall. Now, how she came to write this book. So she was friends with Margaret Mitchell. They worked together at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Sunday edition. So she knew about Margaret Mitchell, knew about Gone with the Wind, and she said that she was influenced by Margaret Mitchell being influenced by Roswell. So not to get into Bullock Hall, because they've got a really fascinating story. So you'll want to pursue that as well. But because of Margaret Mitchell being inspired by Bullock Hall, in turn, Medora Field Perkerson was inspired by Mimosa. And she said, Margaret wrote this, or Peggy, I guess as she's called, wrote this great novel that's selling really well. It's being made into a movie. I want to do the same thing, only I'm going to write a murder mystery instead of an or Civil War era romance. So she wrote a murder mystery instead, and the book was extremely successful, to the point that, of course, it was made into a movie. And let's take a look at some pictures from this movie premiere. So again, you can see huge crowd. Who Killed Aunt Maggie? world premiere. The headlines, it was in newspapers. There was a buffet, I guess is the inside of what the movie premiere looked like. So huge deal all over the news at the time, just like the book was. And they had also book signings with the actors. So that's what you're seeing here. Up in this corner, we're actually seeing Medora herself, the author of the novel, and the mayor at the time, Mayor Hartsfield. And you might recognize, can everybody see this? I can see your faces in the side here. So I don't know if it's blocked, but it's blocked from me. But if it is, let me know, because this face probably is familiar to you. This one in the bottom right corner, that's Margaret Mitchell. She also attended the movie premiere. So a lot of big stars at this movie premiere. As for what the book is actually about, so it is a murder mystery, and it's pretty traditional in that sense. You know, old country house, they're gathering for a party, and there's a big bad storm. So in a way, Thursday would have been perfect timing. It's just that, you know, it were two similar circumstances, because they lose power, their phones go out, they're stranded, the wind is blowing, all of that. And then Aunt Maggie dies. The book and the movie are a little bit different, but I don't need to get into the details. But either way, in both cases, Aunt Maggie is sort of an older relative who likes to talk about history and genealogy a lot. And she's talking about how there's this secret room in Wisteria Hall. And then she suddenly is found choked to death. And so everybody who's at this party in the house is stranded in the house. They can't call out, they can't leave because the roads are all muddy. And so they're trying to figure out who did it. And then more people start to die. And then the cops eventually are able to come, everybody's stranded in the house, but then they realize they're on a crime scene, so they can't leave. So they're able to reach the cops the next day. Police come and start to interview everybody. So it becomes sort of a police procedural at that point. And then, of course, you do end up with a conclusion. And I'm not going to tell you whether there's a secret room in Wisteria Hall or not, or, of course, who actually did it. I want you to find out on your own by reading the book or watching the movie. So it's very similar to Agatha Christie and other kinds of cozy mysteries of that time. It's not particularly gory. It's not even particularly scary, but it is certainly atmospheric and kind of got dry humor as well. So we've got some descriptions where you can kind of tell it's talking about Mimosa Hall, even though she uses the name Wisteria Hall. So it's inscrutable in the December sunshine, which is when this takes place. And here I just took a quote from it, glanced into the long drawing room, which had been a double parlor before we removed the partition. Those of you who know the history of Mimosa Hall know that this room is a double parlor that was, changed into a long drawing room, actually not too long before the novel was written. So that's another one of those little nods where you can tell, yeah, this is Mimosa Hall. And then we have kind of a little bit more of an atmospheric kind of clip from the book talking about the library. There are a lot of scenes that happen in the library. Something I do want to read as one of our first readings, it's a little bit lengthier, is just something that I appreciated. It is a little bit of a spooky book, but there's just so much humor in it too, just dry humor that almost sounds British and Agatha Christie. You can see why the book was popular, just because it has like so much humor in it. So,
Sarah, did you?
Yep.
Sarah, did you say spooky?
It's a little spooky, but then also really funny too. So I'm going to read this little clip.
There you go.
So here's an example of sort of the dry wit in this book. Okay, she's in a fight with the police officers who are not exactly friendly guys. He opened the door and stood aside. "You are only making this harder for yourself," he said. My eyes flew to Bill, sitting in a chair by my grandfather's desk, his red hair tousled and his blue eyes full of a sort of belligerent bewilderment. It was astonishing how much more blue his left eye looked than the right, with its dark circle caused by the bruise. He had been hit in the head earlier. I knew the expression on his face so well. It is always there when Bill comes up against stupidity. He finds it so difficult to believe that people are not all as honest and decent and straightforward as intelligent as he is himself. It's a good bit of tongue-in-cheek. Another clip I want to read that kind of shows you the humor. And another thing that's actually marks this book is a little bit different from Agatha Christie novels, actually, with the exception of Miss Marple. But we have a strong female character in this book that's a little bit rarer. And I know, of course, we have Scarlett O'Hara, but it almost does kind of harken to Scarlett O'Hara, but also to Miss Marple and other strong women of the time. So even though you might see that I'm reading towards the end, I'm not giving away anything from the end. So at one point, the narrator, Sally, who's telling the story, at one point, she actually holds somebody up. And it's a kind of a mix of spooky and also pretty funny. So Spike shuffled through the door, evidently feeling his way. I was shaking from head to foot, but I knew what I must do. I waited until he reached the steps, then I dashed around the screen with my flashlight and, averting my eyes from that figure on the floor, I grabbed up the gun and was behind Spike in a flash. Hands up, I ordered. I've got you covered. Perhaps I had learned that from the movies, but it must have sounded convincing, for with the flashlight trained on him, I could see Spike's hands waver slowly upward, while he swore beneath his breath. Thank heaven I was able to hold that flash fairly steadily too. All right, I said, go on, open that door, but keep your hands up. Hell, he growled, how am I supposed to keep them up and open the door? Perhaps he was not dissembling, but I wasn't trusting. One little move the wrong way, I warned, and it will be good night for you. Like, it's scary, but it's also, you can see the wit that I have throughout the book. But now let's read something a little bit more atmospheric, bringing in some of the mystery. And this is a scene that takes place in the library. Busy in the dining room, I stopped dead still for a moment to listen, quite certain I had heard footsteps in the kitchen. But when I went to investigate, I could find no one. Afterward, as I passed from room to room, I caught myself looking behind me, and in each room, I left all the lights turned on. Outside, it was getting dark, and the rain, whipped by the wind, beat against the windows and tore at the blinds. As I crouched on the hearth in the library, trying to rebuild the fire, the conviction grew upon me that someone not friendly was concealed in the house. It was all right to tell myself that I was a fool, that it was only the wind and the rain, but try as I might, I could not bring myself to leave that room and go back upstairs and dress. Finally, darting from one to the other, I did close both doors, but as I sank down in the wing chair by the fire, which somehow failed to warm me, it seemed to me that the light shining on the silver doorknobs lent them a gleam somehow sinister. I turned my chair so I could not see either one, so I could not see it turn when something nameless grasped one of those doorknobs from the other side. Out of doors, the wind blew harder and the rain was swept in sheets against the old house. Sitting there, gripped by a paralysis of fear, I wondered if anybody would ever come. Spooky. You can picture this room where that takes place.
Dr. Harwood,
Yes.
I wonder, and for our guests that have joined us, this was not planned, but because you stayed on that photo of the library and just did the fictional part from the book, I'm just wondering, is it Candace who's controlling the photographs, or are you? Could we go back to that last, okay, could we go back to that last photo? I'm just wondering, I know there's many on the call that have heard the story, but for those that didn't or haven't, and I know myself, I probably heard it 5 or 6 times, but probably couldn't repeat it. while we're sitting here looking at the library, we're looking at the phoenix that's in the middle over the fireplace. Could we just talk about that for just a second to weave some of the history along with the fiction that we're talking about tonight, since we're talking about the library? Do you mind?
Yeah, so the story with the Phoenix is that this was after a fire. The house was originally built and there was a fire, at least the records, or not the records, the legend is that there was a fire that caused the whole house to burn down, right down to the foundations, and then it was rebuilt. Then a couple years, it would have been completed at the latest by 1846, and lived in continuously after that. But the Dunwoody family, who had the house built and were the first owners, called it Phoenix Hall because of the house being rebuilt. And then there was another fire, and I think this was this mantelpiece was put in then in the 1950s in the library. So the Phoenix is representing Phoenix Hall, the fact that this house has been rebuilt after that first fire, and then the second fire. The second fire didn't burn the whole house down, it just damaged this part of the house, but not completely, of course. It was just mostly the furniture that was damaged.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Harwood. And for those on this call, Steve had mentioned and Candace shared in our conversation what our link is for Friends of Mimosa Hall and Gardens, but we do have a Phoenix Circle Society, which is actually named after the mantle in the library. And so I just thought it would be a great way to tie together the two pieces, the fictional as well as the real life history, which, what do they say? True life is better than fiction. In this case, I think it is. So thank you. Thanks for repeating that story.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward for the next reading from the book. And this one, she's describing the back rooms, and these are, this is where she's using artistic license. The house doesn't look quite like that, but you can picture it looking into the back, through past the stairway and through the back doors. So the kitchen area is kind of back here. So Susan is going to read this passage for us, if you may. So please go ahead, Susan.
Thank you. Leaving the big, spicy smelling kitchen, which had originally been the dining room, I passed on to the breakfast room. The original kitchen had been a detached building, as was the case with so many antebellum houses. Cutting off at the back a part of the long central hall to use as a breakfast room had been one of the changes made since this place came into our possession. I was thinking of all this as I gave the room a final appraising glance before stepping out into the little back passageway beyond, with its steps leading down to the basement and the new game room. From this passageway, back steps also ascend upward. Two other doors open into the one leading to the office, another to the back porch. In the passage, I stumbled over something that blocked my way. There, on the floor at my feet, lay Aunt Maggie.
Thank you, Susan. We have a combination of description of architecture and a lot of scenery, and then the spookier parts of the drama of the story, and usually a lot of humor mixed in. So the next and final clip from the book that I'm going to read kind of combines all three: the humor, the horror, and the references to Mimosa Hall's architecture. "Stand back, everybody," ordered Lieutenant Gregory, drawing his revolver from its holster and dashing through the door as I shrank back into the room and attached myself to Bill's arm. Roberts and Anderson were right behind their superior officer as he charged out and up the stairs. And of course, none of the rest of us stood back, though Bill did make an effort to park me in the library. By the time I reached the top of the stairs at the tail end of the procession, the police were coming out of mine and Bill's room and crossing over to the other front bedroom, which was occupied by Eve. This time they did not come out, and when I crowded in behind everyone else, I understood why, for what I saw was a tableau of horror. Eve, who had evidently decided to take an after-lunch siesta, lay motionless on the chaise lounge, her face twisted in the awful agony of death. There was a dark red stain on the front of her white chiffon nightgown, a stain that spread and clashed oddly with the flame color of her negligee. We've got kind of a spooky story. You can see just from those clips why it was such a popular book and why Hollywood was so eager to make a movie out of it. So now let's watch some clips from the movie. Of course, what are the big signs promoting it? So with the movie, the mystery part, there's still a mystery, but they focus a lot more on the cozy part of the cozy mystery. So the movie has a lot more humor to it, some dry humor, but a lot of not so dry humor, a lot of more slapstick.
Something. Kirk, I haven't had a chance to tell you. Uncle Charles died this afternoon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, but that isn't all. He disappeared immediately afterwards.
I could have sworn I saw a face in that window. Did you say your Uncle Charles died and then disappeared? Oh, now, wait a minute. This is another one of those mystery stories that's got holes in it a mile wide. Young man, if you're going to patch up any holes, you might begin with the seat of your trousers. What?
Have you noticed that when he runs to the window, you see his drawers? There's a lot of scenes like that in this movie, so a lot more humor throughout it. So the next scene, you can kind of see a little bit more of the slapstick and also the reference to the secret room. Although the movie changes the story just a little bit, instead of gathering for a party, they gather because one of the relatives has died, and then Aunt Maggie dies, and then more people die. But in both, they're looking for a secret room. And so they keep talking about this secret room in Wisteria Hall. So now they're going to go and try and find the secret room if they can.
They look good. Now, where is the secret room? That's the man you're going to marry? That room's no secret. Let me see. Entered the secret room through a bookcase. It's swung or something.
Oh, you poor honey lamb. Are you all right? I'm afraid.
It's a good thing there's a lot of light literature on that top shelf.
Great day in the morning. It's grandmother's diary. It's for the year 1865. Look, Sally. Well, I can't make anything out of it. Oh, grandmother wrote pages and pages about everything. Probably take me all night to find the entry we're looking for. No, you don't, young man. You all laughed at me because I insisted there was a secret room in this house. Well, this diary will tell us exactly where it is.
Operator, this is Dr. George Bennett.
I would be quiet, Aunt Maggie. Those are the words that get her in trouble in this book and in the movie. As you can see with the movie, there's a little bit more artistic license in terms of the layout. While the book really sounds like Mimosa Hall, the movie looks kind of like Mimosa Hall, but it's interpreted a little bit more differently to make it, I guess, easier for a movie setting. One of the other big changes in the adaptation in the book, certainly Sally, the narrator, has issues with the police, but the police are dead serious throughout the whole thing. And Sally kind of has this dry humor and this mocking them. In the movie, the police are just a joke altogether. And we'll see that in this next clip.
Operator, give me Sheriff Gregory's office right away. Sheriff Gregory speaking. And what do you want now? I just called you from Wisteria Hall. I know. You wanted to report that you mislaid a body. That's right. Now I want to report that we found the body. Well, then I don't have to come out there. I'm afraid, Sheriff, you're still going to have to make the trip. See, we found a different body. Miss Margaret Amber has just been found, strangled to death. That's what?
There's a lot of pants dropping in this movie, but I laughed out loud the first time I saw that because it's just such a different tone from the book and also from a lot of movies from that time. Most are a lot more serious and don't have the police getting mocked so much. So we're going to watch one slightly longer clip from the movie now. That'll be our last clip for the night. And it's again featuring the police as they come to interview everybody and try and figure out who killed Aunt Maggie. Some of the police team who are having a little chat now.
You know, I think they're beginning to crack, Sheriff. You mean we're beginning to crack? We gotta try something else. Well, I'll tell you, we could do. No, that wouldn't be any good. I got it. You got what? We'll smoke the killer out. I was reading about it last week. It's a psychopathic. That's it. It's a psychopathic trap. Listen, now here's what we'll do. Listen, Sheriff, you know what I told us. Well, folks, this case is as good as solved. I suppose some of you have heard that the eye of a corpse often retains the last image seen at the time of death. Sheriff, as a medical man. Yes, Doctor, I know what you're thinking. Recorder Dodson pointed out to me a distinct image in the eye of the dead woman in there. Who could it be but the murderer? The image is too small to see with the naked eye, but not too small to be photographed. So I'm sending back to town for a special camera and some infrared film. Within half an hour after that equipment arrives, I will show you an enlarged likeness of the murder, photographed in the retina of Miss Ambler's eyes. It's a fine frame for a picture. Well, that's all, folks. As soon as we get those pictures, you can go free. All except one of them.
Maggie's eyes.
Sure. Curtis, take my car and run into town as quick as you can and get that camera and that special film and bring it back here. Well, we ain't got no... Go down the road out of sight and wait a couple hours. But the whole idea is that somebody might make a break, and I want you to block that road. Now, go, hurry up. Run.
Right, I'll leave you to find out whether the psychopathic trick actually worked. So that does it for our clips today. So now I'll send it back to our host, Kelly.
Sarah, thank you so much. And for the guests, I hadn't seen any of the clips or what Dr. Harwood had put together. A couple of things before we begin our Q&A. Some of you may already know this. I know there's a couple of guests on here that know far more than we did before we began this process. But Wendy Berry, who is, I had shared with both Dr. Harwood and Candace Curley, our communications director, just a week and a half ago when I began researching some of the folks that were in that film that we just looked at. Wendy Berry, who plays the lead in the movie, was actually, and I'm reading this from IMDb biographies, was by the 1940s, Wendy Berry star began to fade. This was in no small part due to the bad publicity, today it would be good publicity, generated by her real-life role as mistress of notorious underworld figure Bugsy Siegel. So apparently, she had an affair and actually had a daughter. And I was trying to do some research and see how old the daughter would be, because at this point, it would be really interesting if we could make those connections. But I mean, as most stories with Mimosa, and many on this call know, most stories with Mimosa, we have found at Friends of Mimosa, we open one door and we just keep on finding diamonds left and right. So I found that really interesting, and I hope that many on this call will dig in a little deeper. I'd like to mention if Dr. Harwood had encouraged for those who have not read or watched the film, after this, we hope that you do. There will be some copies at next door at Bullock Hall. They've got a beautiful gift shop and have increased their inventory, or in the process of doing that. So we hope, rather than going on Amazon, that you wait for your copy of Who Killed Aunt Maggie and go and visit Bullock Hall as you go past Mimosa, until we all can see you there, but that you purchase your copy at the gift shop at Bullock if you're able to do so. So thank you so much, Dr. Harwood. You did a great job, and I'm sure there's many questions, or as I intimated earlier, if you have other things that you would like to contribute, we'd love to hear your own stories about perhaps not just this book, but your own stories about Mimosa. So we'll open up for questions and answers. Please take yourself off of mute if you have a question or an answer.
I have a question. Do
Is
we
that
know
you,
if there's-
Candace?
Yeah. Do we
Great,
know
thank
if there's okay. Do we know if there's a secret room in Mimosa?
No comment.
Okay.
So the question, repeat the question again, Candace. Do we know if there is a secret room?
I said, yeah. Do we know if there's a secret room in Mimosa? And we're getting a political response of no comment.
Of course there's a secret room.
So Susan Rumble, thank you so much. Susan was who read our second reading. Susan is serving currently as our treasurer. She's been a huge contributor to Friends of Mimosa Hall and Gardens in addition to that, and also is very involved next door at Bullock Hall. Susan, so your guesstimation is for sure there's got to be a secret room at Mimosa.
Absolutely a secret room. And if there's not, we're going to put one in.
There you go. That's great.
So Steve, start raising money for a secret room, okay?
Only the people on this call can know about it.
That's right.
I can get behind that.
Thank you, Dina. Can you introduce Dina to everyone, Kelly?
Yes, actually, Susan, you go ahead. But that's a great idea.
Dina, I don't know if you can put your screen on or not, but Dina Bush is the Historic Assets Manager for the City of Roswell, and she has a huge job managing the 3 historic homes, Bullock Hall, Smith Plantation, and I'm blanking, the other one.
Barrington.
Barrington Hall.
There we go.
And in addition to that, the cemeteries and the machine shop. So there are a lot of historic properties owned by the city, and all of them have some parts available for you to visit or rent to have an event, such as Mimosa Hall. We can, when we can go outdoors and have events again, we will be able to have some more events on the grounds of Mimosa Hall. We've had some already. We officially opened 2 years ago on Earth Day, and we hope to have our 3rd big Earth Day celebration in April. I'm already working on planning it, and Kelly, I have tons to tell you about that. So we love Mimosa Hall so much, and we appreciate that you love it too. And I just we have Simone with us, who's putting on our solar roof. We love having Simone here. Wave, Simone. There she is. And it's just a fun thing to be in. If our board president were able to be here, he would tell you what he tells us. He said it today. He says it every time we're together. This is the most fun group in all of Roswell, and we do have a great time. So we'd love for you to join us at our events or contribute in any way you can. We'll take articles, we'll take suggestions and ideas. And if you want to help with the website, anything you'd like to do, we'd love to have you participate with us.
Susan, that was excellent. Thank you. That was terrific. I'm glad we're taping this.
And ask Dina if she wanted to just say hello.
Oh, hi, Susan. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Yes, Susan, thank you so much for that. And just kudos to the whole team here tonight. This was excellent. So thank you so much for all the efforts that you have put behind this. I love Mimosa. I love all the historic homes, but this particularly in this story, I just think is so fascinating. And I love having this literature connection, this Southern Noir lore connection with this book. I think it's just amazing. It has so much potential. And it's a lot of fun, like Dr. Harwood said, once you get into the details of this, and even Kelly, you looking into the story and everything that plays into it, it's just really fascinating. So thank you to everyone that came tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dina. We did have a question for Dr. Harwood, and I'm sure others on this call maybe that aren't as brave to step their toe or take themselves off of mute. How can we view the actual film, Dr. Harwood?
Okay.
You had clips, but how do we do that?
So the actual movie itself is out of print, and some kind soul has put it up on dailymotion.com, and that's the only way I've been able to find it.
Okay.
Or you could wait until we're able to get on the grounds again, and we're going to have a screening party on the side of the building. So
for sure. I love how you're thinking.
Stay tuned. It was Steve's idea. But I'm going to take it a step farther and say that as soon as Dina lets us back on the grounds for group events, we will have a screening party on the side of the house.
I love it. I love that idea. That's super.
I'm all for that. I think that's amazing.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Again, if you're looking for the book, please check out Bullock Hall and their gift shop. They are open for business now, of course, socially distanced and socially safe, but they've got a great gift shop over there. So we hope that you'll visit there. And please, if you haven't, and Candace, if you could tell folks, I think most on tonight's event are signed up to get our email blasts and on social media. But if you could tell them how to get the latest and greatest via newsletter and or anything else that's going on. Before you do that, I just want to mention we have our next event is November 12th, and that will be talking about our solar roof for those on this event that may have not heard about. We're going to be going into details about what we have planned to make Mimosa the oldest net zero home, not just in the country, but North America, possibly the world. But we'll be going into more details about that November 12th. And so please look for it. It'll be similar to this in that you'll sign up for it for Eventbrite. And we hope to see you at that event so you can follow along and with these very exciting events as they go. And I see Steve Gibson says we'll be sending out something for Giving Tuesday as well. So keep that in mind. Thank you, Steve, keeping us on track. But we look forward to, as Susan said, seeing you in person as well. In the meantime, while we're in these times, we'll look forward to more exciting virtual events. Candace, can you share with all how they sign up to ensure that they get the most up-to-date information from Mimosa
Absolutely, but I am going to back up when we were talking about some of the things coming up. Not only the solar roof on the 12th, and then our Giving Tuesday and year end, but we have our Santa pit that's coming Saturday. So if you'd like to start getting your postcards together, if you go onto our website and go into our events page, you can sign up to have your pictures taken with Santa. And socially distanced, you know, all best practices there, but we could, you know, all proceeds are going to help us preserve this wonderful home and get this solar roof up and take our past and make it relevant for our future. So having had said that, in order to get to our newsletter to find out what our next events are, if you'll just follow the link that I had put up in the very front, the friendsofmimosa.org, there it will pop up and sign up for our newsletter. And you do that, and then once a month you get a nice little pulled together newsletter, e-newsletter, and any kind of emails where we're talking about special events, and you can just stay connected with us. And we'd really like for you to participate. We think that we've got a very special project here. So that's how you would do that.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you so much. Well, I think that concludes our evening if we have no more questions. And I agree with our very smart and savvy treasurer, Susan Rumble. The first of many. We look forward to celebrating not just this book, but lots of things at Mimosa. And Dr. Harwood, I look forward to talking about through whether virtual or in person, hosting an event to talk more about the connection to Mimosa and Margaret Mitchell. So we've got so many things going on at Mimosa and so many folks that love this property so much and are spending time, talent, and treasure on it. We look forward to all that are on this call to join us, because it's been so much fun and so rewarding. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.